Law & Order is making a splash coming back to NBC nearly 10 years after it ended back in 2010. We'll be going over a few key things to know about the upcoming show's reboot. First, we'll discuss the revival. Then we'll talk about Camryn Manheim's return to the show. After, we'll see why Dylan McDermott thinks fans couldn't handle a potential spin-off with his character. Then we'll have a look back on the director Dick Wolf and his legacy. Lastly, learn why Mariska Hargitay can't watch this particular episode of Law & Order Special Victims Unit. Let's discuss all the need-to-knows about the show's revival. After nearly 10 years after the original Law & Order ended, it'll be making its return to NBC February 24th, 2022. Jeffrey Donovan and Anthony Anderson were seen together in a picture and seemed to be working on set. The photo was posted to Instagram and then later deleted. If they were aiming to start buzz about the show, the mission was completed. Jeffrey Donovan will be a NYPD detective working side by side with his other detective, Anthony Anderson. Hugh Dancy will also return as the assistant district attorney. The first episode of Law & Order aired in 1990 by Dick Wolf, and the series went on for 20 years before drawing the last episode in 2010. The network decided to focus more on spin-offs such as Law & Order SVU and others. The new season will pick up where it left off by following police who investigate the crimes and district attorneys who prosecute and put those on trial. In September of this year, the show announced its comeback. The director commented on the matter, saying, "There are very few things in life that are literally dreams come true. This is mine." Even the chairman of entertainment content at NBC Apple on the matter, claiming Law & Order is one of the most iconic shows in TV history, and the thought to continue its legacy for new seasons is exciting. Camryn Manheim speaks on her return, and we see what all she's been up to ever since. Manheim joins the drama as Lieutenant Kate Dixon, as a replacement for Lieutenant Anita Van Buren. Camryn has first appeared in the original Law & Order series, playing multiple different guest roles. Her first appearance was during 1991 when she played the role Layla on an episode regarding women's rights. She came on next in 1993 during an episode that involved the murder of a hearing-impaired girl. Her third and final role before being cast as a regular was a hostile foster mother. It's nice to see Camryn Manheim returning to where she first got her shot at in acting. Following the decades since she first was on the show, she's gone on to have a very successful career. She becomes sentimental about her return, saying, "I'm over the moon to be joining the cast of Law & Order as Lieutenant Kate Dixon. My very first job on television was on Law & Order, so it feels like I'm coming home. New York, here I come." Camryn went on to star in the hit series Ghost Whisperer and even took up acting on a few movies. Manheim even worked as a sign language interpreter, and her skills were even put to use in an episode of Law & Order. In 1998, she obtained an Emmy for work on The Practice. In her acceptance speech, she said, "This is for all the fat girls." Camryn had admitted her share of struggles came as a bigger girl trying to get roles, but that her success means despite a person's physical appearance, you can still be someone. Afterwards, in 2005, she also earned a Golden Globe Emmy nomination for her work in the miniseries Elvis. We're excited to see her return as Lieutenant Kate Dixon and see what she brings to the role. Dylan McDermott talks about why fans couldn't handle potential spin-off with his character. In an interview, Dylan had stated that fans couldn't handle a Law & Order organized crime spin-off with his character. Could Dylan have his very own spin-off in the NBC universe permanently? Although it hasn't been proven, Dylan gives his 2 cents on why fans can't deal with a spin-off. He says, "I think Richard Wheatley is an instinctual animal. The character he portrays as Richard Wheatley is a mob boss who's caused a ruckus in the organized crime series as well as Special Victims Unit. Given the fact he's mastered his character as a mastermind on screen, does that mean it could be time for a spin-off? Fans await and dream of a spin-off to occur, while Dylan replies with, "I don't think people can handle that. I'll probably have to be for half an hour. I think after an hour, people will be like, oh man," implying that too much time for him on screen could be exhausting given his character's demeanor and mentality. He also adds this about his current character, saying there will be a lot more chaos with Kevin Wheatley, so that should satisfy fans for now. Could we see a spin-off happen in the future, and will the fans' request be enough for NBC and Dick Wolf to give it to the go-ahead? Well, regardless, we can still catch Richard Wheatley stirring up trouble for the organized crime and Special Victims Unit. Let's tap in with Dick Wolf and his legacy on TV. During 1988, Wolf began brainstorming a concept for a television series that would portray an optimistic view of the American criminal justice system. He originally thought to name the show Night and Day, way, but soon after came up with the name Law & Order. The show made its TV debut on NBC's network and would later go on to win an Emmy for it in 1997 for being the best drama series. The show was depicted in almost a novel way, which hadn't really been done before in the law enforcement entertainment world. The case was depicted during each episode, and everything revolved around it, from the different perspectives of the police to the prosecutors. The beginning of each episode generally followed the police officers as they would investigate a crime, and their efforts resulted in the apprehension of their suspect. Wolf would go on to become an executive producer for shows such as Chicago Med, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Law & Order SVU, and Law & Order Organized Crime. Wolf has a particular way of storytelling that's allowed him to be a key aspect when it comes to delivering compelling stories. He has the right mix of character development and plot to keep viewers intrigued and tune into the story. The shows have been known to shine a line on law enforcement and how cops take down the bad guys. But when George Floyd passed away and the BLM was moving and compelling many Americans to rethink their view on police, Wolf took action as well. Wolf Entertainment has done some soul searching of its own and has had panel discussions that pushed the team to fully comprehend all sides of this pressing issue. They spent more time as a whole discussing ways they could speak on the issue through the show, wanting to express their remorse and bring these topics to light. Wolf had commented on the police reform issue, stating how important it is that he and his entertainment group are taking the matter very seriously. It's thought that Wolf wants to portray that not all cops are bad cops, and that narrative should be remembered. Mariska Hargitay reveals why she can't watch this Law & Order SVU episode. It's been 20 years since Mariska played her iconic role as Olivia Benson on SVU, and often some episodes portray episodes that are too personal and difficult to watch. Some topics and material can be sensitive and too much for some viewers. Mariska says the 500th episode is deeply disturbing and is based on a subject too familiar to her. During the episode, Captain Olivia Benson explores grooming, accountability, and canceled culture on social media when a prom-centered crime occurs. Olivia's former flame, Burton Lowe, also appears on the episode. In addition, a few other familiar faces were brought back, including Nick Amaro and Captain Cragen. Even though fans adored the episode, they couldn't understand why one Special Victims Unit detective didn't make an appearance. Detective Munch was the person in question fans were hoping to see, but Munch had retired from the SVU in season 15 and hasn't appeared since season 17. There was still hope the detective would pop up, even though he didn't. A return featuring Munch doesn't seem likely given his age in real life, but fans hold on to the belief he may return to check in on his former co-workers later in the series. So there you have it. We dug deep into the revival of the show and a little back history. We touched on Camryn Manheim's sentimental return to where she first got her start, and we talked with Dylan McDermott and learned why he thinks fans can't fathom a potential spin-off series that involved him. Then we took a look at Dick Wolf's line of work and all he's been involved with. Lastly, we touched on why Mariska Hargitay can't watch the 500th episode of Law & Order SVU. So what can we expect with Camryn Manheim as Lieutenant Kate Dixon? And what will Jeffrey and Anthony back on the show? Why is it possible we could still get that spin-off with Dylan McDermott? Either way, sit back and mark your calendars because February 24th of next year is when the show airs once again.